Hi friends! It's time again to reflect on what went well last quarter and what didn't go so well when it comes to studying Japanese. And of course, also setting new goals for the new quarter. Quarter 3 will be very exciting because I just got accepted into a language school, which I'll be visiting from October on in Japan. So this quarter is all about preparing for this move and for the test that I will probably have before visiting language school. So really exciting. But before we get into that, let's take a look at quarter 2. Since I have a track record of not always setting the most realistic goals, I tried to really underestimate what I could get done in quarter 2 so that I will maybe end up with more realistic goals at the end. And I would say it kind of worked. My goals for quarter 2 were to first follow a free flow approach when it comes to learning, because in quarter 1 I tried to dedicate each day to a certain skill or do certain tasks that are always repeating on a certain day. And this didn't really work as well because I was really tired on some days, and if I had to do a hard grammar task on a day where I was really tired and didn't really have any brain juice left, of course this is not ideal. So I wanted to see on which days I had more energy and then take this energy and tackle the hard tasks. And this kind of worked, but sometimes I caught myself with putting off the hard tasks till the end of the week. It was not the most ideal situation sometimes. My second goal was to only follow the Gogo Nihon online course, the N3 course, as my main resource, and then the Kanji Look and Learn workbook as my side resource, so that I would keep my resources quite minimal when it comes to the basic study resources. And this was a really good idea because I felt way less pressure to work on everything at the same time. I was able to focus my energy just on those two resources. I also wanted to make more time for sentence mining, and this didn't really work as well because I imagined myself doing it for 2 or 3 hours a week, but I only ended up doing it a little bit more than usual, but it was still okay and I kind of managed to do more, so I would take this as a win. The next goal was to leave lots of time on the weekend for immersion, and this also worked really well, and I definitely did most of my immersion on the weekend, like watching anime or listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos. I would mostly lay on the balcony, like in my hammock, for example, and then just chill for 2 or 3 hours and just immerse myself in all of those things. And I also started to read in my lunch breaks. This, of course, also contributed to more immersion. Another goal was to do more output practice in the form of writing, and I completely forgot about this goal. I didn't write anything at all, not a single thing, except for the Gogo Nihon course where I had to write maybe 3 or 4 sentences every a second week or something, but I didn't really write a longer text like I imagined I would do every couple of weeks. I also wanted to do my italki lessons a bit less because I used to do them once a week, but I kind of felt uncomfortable because I'm still not the best speaker. I don't like the feeling that I will get when the lesson is approaching, and I'm kind of dreading it, even though I feel really good afterwards. But I just wanted to take off the pressure and just do it every 2 or 3 weeks. But this also resulted in me and my teacher feeling more distant. Sometimes I had so much to talk about that I didn't really know where to start, so it was not ideal. Then I wanted to plan a study session with a friend once a month, which also didn't happen. But I kind of achieved the same goal because the goal was to be more varied or have more different experiences when learning, different environments and stuff. I went to a coffee shop every second week and studied there. So I also achieved the same thing, just with a different method. And the last goal I had was to read Saigo no Natsu Kimi ga Ita intensively because I read it extensively. I think it was for the mini immersion book club. But since I already knew the story, I kind of lost interest after a couple of pages. So I just switched to a new book, which is also fine, but this also didn't work as planned. And when it comes to the new quarter, things I want to keep doing is follow the free flow approach, but also be mindful to not push the hardest tasks to the last possible day. To continue reading more books in Japanese, because I really enjoy the Hoshi no Oji-sama book right now. So I also bought 2 new books in the same difficulty level, which you would have seen in my last vlog. in case you've watched it. If not, I will link it on the top. I also want to keep my resources very minimal because this also worked really well. A thing I also want to keep doing is to practice my kanji writing, like writing kanji from my memory by hand, because this is also something that will be probably very important when I will visit language school. So I want to keep doing that. And if you wonder how I'm practicing that, you can check out the video that will come out after this one. So if you don't want to miss that, please subscribe and stay tuned. And the last thing I want to keep doing is to do the 50-50 approach of 50% like traditional studying with courses and books and 50% of immersion like reading, listening, and I also will count like speaking and writing, even though it's output practice, into the immersion. So I would like to keep that balance, which I kept for the last couple of months, because it was really nice to not only be with my head in the books, but also feel like I can just consume more resources and more fun things. Things I want to do more of, do my italki lessons regularly again. So each week I actually just bought a new package 2 days ago, and I will now do 45 minutes instead of 30 minutes. I already put in the dates into my sensei's calendar and also my calendar, so there will be no excuse. And I did 45 minutes because the second thing I want to be doing more of is writing practice and output. And since I don't want to learn my own mistakes and I don't have someone who can correct it for me, like in my friend group or so, I want to use the additional 15 minutes of my italki session to just go through the text with my teacher and ask her like what I could improve on or what sounds maybe a bit weird. And one thing I want to do less of is sentence mining, because we just cancelled our Netflix subscription because we wanted to save some money, and it's a bit harder to do sentence mining without Netflix because I use Language Reactor, like the free version, and it works with YouTube and with Netflix, but it also needs like both subtitles, and not all Japanese YouTube videos I would like to watch or like to use have like the subtitles as a different file that the Language Reactor can use. I guess I will do some sentence mining here and there, probably, but not as much. And that brings us already to the new goals for Q3. When I set those goals, I thought a lot about where my skills are currently at, because they're quite uneven, and I guess, like most language learners, I can read a lot more than I can speak and understand when listening. So I definitely want to work on like the listening and the speaking part, and like also up my conversation skill a bit more, so that I will be able to hopefully survive in Japan without having to rely so much on English. And also my grammar use is not the best. In theory, I know a lot of grammar points, but I don't really use them when speaking. I can most of the time understand them when I see them written in a book, but I would also like to use them in my speech, because right now I probably sound like a 4-year-old when speaking to my teacher. My main resource will be the Gogo Nihon course again, but instead of aiming for one full chapter for each month, I think I will only aim for half a chapter, because then I have more time to focus on writing, for example. My side quest will still be the Kanji Look and Learn workbook. I already finished it once, but I'm currently doing like a review cycle and trying to learn, as I said, how to write kanji words from memory. And in order to finish that, I still need a little bit more time, but I don't think I will need all 3 months, hopefully. So I also thought about what resources to use next, but I only want to use one side resource at a time and just have the other ones in the back of my mind, like which one could follow the Kanji Look and Learn book once I am finished with it. And one thing I want to do once I'm finished with the workbook is to add words that I see a lot in my like reading resources to my Anki deck. As I explained in one of my last videos about reading, which I will also put on the top, I try to save every word I encounter in a reading resource that I don't know. And then if I come across the word at least 3 times in different resources, then I decide to add it to my Anki deck. But until now, I didn't really have the like capacity for that, because all the vocabulary I had to learn for the Gogo Nihon course was quite a lot. That's also why I will only do like half a chapter of the Gogo Shogo Nihon course, so that I also have more capacity to do more Anki cards from other resources. And since it's not a big amount of words, I think around like 50 or 60 words, I will also try to like fill the gaps in my vocabulary with the N4 Tango 1500 book, because I just went through like a couple of pages the other day just to see how much I already know and how much I don't know, and I was quite surprised that at least for the first chapter I went through, I didn't know about 25% of the words. And yeah, I guess those words are probably something I should know when like going to language school, because I don't want to be placed in an N4 course because I don't know quite a lot of these words. I would like to be placed in an N3 course because that's what I'm currently trying to study. I want to have a really solid foundation when it comes to vocabulary and stuff. But since this book has also quite a lot of words, my intention is not to finish it, but only to go as far as I can, like with the time I have on my hands right now. And then I also have like one fixed resource I really want to go through in September at the latest. And this is the Conversational Japanese Dialogues book, because I think this would be also a good idea to practice with my italki teacher all the different things I could come across when living in Japan. For example, how to order at the cafe, at the restaurant, how to pay bills in a convenience store, and all those things. And I think I could survive without really practicing it, but I guess practicing those things with my italki tutor quite a few times will definitely ease my anxiety, so it's definitely an important thing for me to do before I leave. The next goal is, as mentioned earlier, to write a longer text each week, and with a longer text I mean like 10 to 15 sentences at least, and just go through it with my italki tutor, see where my mistakes were, and hopefully learn from that for the next time. And for my weekly italki lessons, I also thought about where my struggles were before, because as I said, I was a bit like anxious sometimes before doing them. And I think one major thing that may have influenced that is that I'm not the best person to ask questions. Like, I definitely want to know things from the people I have conversations with, but sometimes I just find it hard to come up with good questions I could ask. So I thought about maybe just using ChatGPT and ask it to give me like 5 questions about the topic I want to talk about as an example, so that I have those questions to fall back on if I don't really know what to talk about. And with that also comes the goal to determine the topic I want to talk about in my italki lesson at the start of the week, because I always have my italki lessons on Saturday, and sometimes I don't even know what I want to talk about until like Friday evening, and then I get stressed and have to come up with an interesting topic. So I definitely want to determine it when I will plan my weekly study goals, like what topic I want to focus on. Same goes for the writing topic, because this also kept me from writing before, because when I sat down I was just like, okay, brain is empty, what should I write about? I don't know. And then I just gave up. So I hope I will be able to prevent this problem. And maybe it would also be a good idea, I haven't decided yet, like 100%, but to do 2 italki lessons per week from September on, because as I said before, I want to do like the conversational Japanese book thing, and I guess it would be a good idea to have a separate lesson for just practicing those things, and maybe also getting input from my italki teacher, like what situations could come up that I will be just as prepared as possible. To improve my listening abilities, I also want to keep listening to the Japanese with Shun podcast, and since I subscribed to his Patreon for a few months, I also have his scripts that go with the episodes, and I plan on doing more like intentional listening sessions where I will sit down with no distraction and listen to the podcast like once without the script, and then using the script to see which words I didn't understand, and then hopefully be able to recognize those words better in the future. So those are my Japanese study goals for Q3. I'm interested to know what your goals are and what you think about the study plan. I'm always open for recommendations, and if you know a good way to improve your speaking ability, I'm always open for that as well. And because I talked quite a lot about the one reading video I did last, I will link it for you up here, so you can check it out if you're interested. And and I will see you in my next video very soon. Bye bye!